There's been excitement building for months now. Ever since December, Cubans have been wondering when an American flag will once again fly over an American embassy. And the answer that we're getting, that we've gotten over the last several weeks and today, is very soon. Possibly as soon as this month. They're working out the final details. As you said, Secretary Kerry would like to come back, would like to come for the first time to Havana to reopen the U.S. Embassy after 54 years of broken relations. But on July 20th, we're told that's the day that in both countries relations will be officially restored. That, of course, the embassy opening ceremony will come a little bit later, but July 20th is the date, historic date, when, despite all these years of Cold War animosity, U.S. and Cuban relations will be restored. Jeff De Laurentiis, the State Department's man in Havana, was at the Cuban Foreign Ministry this morning, essentially taking care of the paperwork, and it's really the end of a long process. The man next to me was very involved in. Please take a step in here. This is Scott Gilbert, who's attorney for Alan Gross, and you were involved over the months of the secret negotiations that were one of the best kept secrets in Havana and in Washington that eventually led to the freeing of your client. I know Alan Gross was informed, you said, of the decision today. How is he doing, and what's his reaction to the news that we will once again reestablish relations with Cuba?
Well, Patrick, this is a magnificent day for the people of both countries. Alan is extraordinarily pleased. I talked to him yesterday. Each of us received a call from the State Department informing us of the final decision. And Alan has spent much of his time since his release working with Congress and others in Washington to see a full normalization of relations between our countries.
He was in jail here for 5 years, lost over 100 pounds. A lot of people would be embittered, certainly not have any well wishes for the government that jailed him all over those years. But he's instead taken a different path and feels that this is the best possible outcome for not only the U.S. people and the Cuban people. Why?
Alan believed that information flow between the citizens of both countries was critical. It's why he came to Cuba in the first place. And Alan continues to have a great fondness for the Cuban people. And believes, as do a majority of Americans and a vast majority of Cubans, that normalization of relations between our countries will be the best outcome for both countries and the people of those countries. And he fundamentally wanted his incarceration to mean something. And from Alan's perspective, and certainly mine, this is the best testament to that incarceration.
Well, thank you so much. Good to have you here. And just a short while ago, the Cuban government put out a statement saying that essentially the deal has been reached after all these months of negotiation, the back and forth. We're waiting here some of the details of the deal, whether U.S. and Cuban diplomats will be able to leave their respective capitals. We know the U.S. is told there'll still be some restrictions on the work that U.S. diplomats do here, but they said that's not unlike the work in other communist countries, and they feel that this is certainly the best path forward for the Cuban government side. They say that they feel that the relationship moving forward now can be based on one respect, and this will begin the process, a much longer process of actually normalizing relations. But as well, the Cuban government also striking something of a defiant tone today, saying they will not change their political or economic system. Certainly, the government of Raul Castro says that even though there will be a U.S. embassy back in Havana after all these years, that it'll be the Communist Party, the government of Raul Castro, that will remain in control of this country. Well, that as far as they're concerned, nothing really will change.
Huge day here in Washington, a huge day in Havana as well. Patrick, stand by. I want to bring in Elise Labott, our global affairs correspondent. The president will speak in the Rose Garden.